Hi, and welcome to the Revive, Thrive, and Optimize podcast. I'm Billy Weiss, compounding pharmacist and health and wellness expert. As always, Janet, my co-host, and behind the scenes, producer Mike. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Billy. I have a confession to make. We talk about addictions a lot. I think we had a podcast last week where we talked about that. I am addicted to fashion. I'm addicted to shopping. Okay. I'm addicted to shopping and clothes and fashion and stuff like that. But so I'm in a lot of these online groups with women who do online shopping, and it's really become fun because we'll watch these fashion shows together, and I'm talking to the same women in Australia and New Zealand. I have a friend in New Zealand that I get to talk to every day, or Idaho, and it's just groups of women that are coming together, supporting each other, and it's really fun. Mm-hmm. But in the realm of clothing, what I'm also seeing is all these women are selling their clothes because many of them have now been on GLP-1s for a year or more. They've lost a ton of weight. I've got friends that I met with a person yesterday who's lost 100 pounds.
Wow.
And so now they're selling their clothes or they're buying new clothes because they have a completely different body now.
Sure.
All right. But the question I'm getting and seeing all the time is that they're also losing their hair. So I would love to talk a little bit about GLP-1 and hair loss. And then, of course, GLP-1s and muscle loss, because I'm also seeing someone around town selling GLP-1s. How do we know which ones are real? There's a ton of recruitment going on. People are recruiting me from multi-level marketing companies who are selling GLP-1s. And some people are losing their hair, but a lot of people are losing their muscle. So I would like to reopen this discussion on GLP-1s now that, a couple of years in with a lot of people using them. What do you think? What's the difference between what's out there and what about this hair loss and muscle loss?
Yeah, Janet, it is a hot topic for sure, GLP-1.
It's a big money maker.
And it should be a hot topic because I do think that the peptides themselves that work down that GLP-1 glucagon pathway, glucagon-like pathway, are very can be game changers for people. You talk about people losing 100 pounds. Yeah. I mean, that's huge, right? To be able to lose that kind of weight.
And you're seeing it all the time now.
The beauty of the GLP drugs, or peptides, I like to call them, because I don't really think of them so much as drugs, but more as naturally occurring amino acid chain peptides, right? Is that I think they have amazing potential to change the health direction, especially of America, where we become, just literally fat and insulin resistant seemingly everywhere. What they don't do is fix poor nutritional choices. Now, they may make you take in less of that poor nutrition. I think they're very good at that.
Because it kind of kills your appetite?
It does suppress the appetite, most certainly, which is not necessarily a bad thing if somebody has a food addiction. I think the problems come in, Janet, when people don't make any changes to their lifestyle.
Oh, here we go. Back to the same thing every time, Billy.
We see these people that lose 100 pounds, but the question is, how much of that was muscle and how much of that was fat? And I don't think anybody, for the most part, is measuring or cares.
And how much of that was their hair? Because that's happening.
And so what happens is these people now have used these GLP-1s, maybe long-term, and they're on bigger and bigger doses, right?
Because as they've stayed on them, they've pretty much increased the dose. Now, if you're being prescribed a GLP-1 and they're upping your dosage, that is completely different from microdosing, where you're also cycling on and off. Is that
they are completely different? Because what I think is the best path for people is to, number one, understand that they're probably where they're starting because of their lifestyle choices. So if you are eating poor foods and you are overweight or obese or diabetic or whatever, it is more than likely from the choices that you made. And so, excuse me. So we need to address that. Now, the GLP-1s, because they do suppress those cravings, and they do help with addictions outside of just food addictions, they're finding, they can be a very valuable tool to do so.
Maybe they'll help me with my shopping addiction.
But we should, yeah, they could. They should not use them as a way to eat less Big Macs and fries. They should use them as a way to get away from the Big Mac and fries, okay? And get on to real whole foods, real meat, real veggies, those kind of things. So I think that what happens is, I know that what happens is, let's say you start on 2.5 milligrams of Mounjaro, which is tirzepatide, which is a dual agonist GLP-1. It will suppress your appetite pretty strongly in the beginning, in my experience with people. And for the first, 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, they're doing really well. And then their hunger starts to come back because their body kind of adapts to that signal.
Gets used to it, right?
So they increase them to 5 milligrams.
Okay.
And then that, again, suppresses their hunger for 6 to 8 weeks. And then they'll start to gain their appetite back. And they'll increase them to 7.5 milligrams. And this story goes on up to 15 milligrams. And now they're on the highest dose. They can't go up. Maybe they have lost 100 pounds, but, over 50% of it was muscle. And 50% of it was fat. And so now they've actually slowed their own metabolism down.
Yeah.
They're stuck.
Yeah.
Because if they come off the 15 milligram Mounjaro,
they're going to gain a ton of weight because they've lost so much muscle.
They're going to gain more weight because they've lost muscle. Their appetite's going to come raging back, and they're still eating Big Macs and fries. And
maybe the cost of these meds.
Oh, the cost is
lose your job or something. Now you can't.
I mean, we're talking $1,200 to $1,500 a month. And so I think that scenario is what most people, unfortunately, are doing. And so what happens is it's kind of like the Biggest Loser show.
Oh, that's a great documentary to watch.
If you go back and watch, they've all gained it back. Not all, but the vast majority have gained more weight than they ever did because they were just burning off muscle for the sake of burning calories.
Now, is the hair loss from not having enough protein?
Yeah, the hair loss is from nutrient deficiency, plain and simple. Okay. When you are not on the right supplements and your body is not getting the right nutrients, one of the first things to go is going to be the skin and the hair. Okay. And we see it all the time. People will take our multivitamin, the OptiU multivitamin, and they'll go, God, my hairdresser tells me how much faster my hair is growing. And I've noticed I have to cut my nails faster. And my hair's not falling out in the shower anymore. So what happens, Janet, is I think it's twofold. Number one, they're nutrient deficient, they're protein deficient. So their hair comes out. When they cut their calories significantly quickly, they tank their thyroid and their hair comes out. So now they got both things going on. Now think about it. Your thyroid is your gas pedal for your metabolism. If you go on these extreme, I'll call them more extreme ways of cutting calories quickly, you will lose weight, but you will then drop your own metabolism. You're losing muscle, which drops your metabolism. You're nutrient deficient, which drops your metabolism. And again, they're kind of stuck in the matrix. And so we have to do this, I think, in order to do it properly. We have to change their lifestyle habits, put them on the right supplements, make sure they're getting adequate protein. We try our best to get them to do resistance training so that they can maintain and build muscle while they're on the GLP-1. But at least if we can get them to hit their protein levels daily, they should not lose significant muscle. So that would be a win. But if we can then get them to add the resistance training or strength training, they will. In many cases, we see people actually gain muscle while they're on a GLP-1, losing fat, And typically what we're having them do or suggesting that they do with the help of their provider is what we call microdose. So they do a very small dose 3 times a week, like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday would be typical. And
So they're breaking up a once a week dose into 3 times?
Well, we're using way less than a once a
okay.
week dose. We're using less than the starting dose and getting significant results. So we cut down on any risk. We cut down on muscle loss. We cut down on all that while it dampens we'll call it food addictions.
Yeah.
And there are certain peptides that will also help speed the metabolism at the same time. So think about this. We can reduce the cravings for the Big Mac and fries while speeding our metabolism, while trying to preserve our muscle, while getting plenty of nutrients and protein in.
And while
So
trying to
now,
gain muscle, too.
we're not addicted to this forever. We can go through 8 or 12 weeks, maybe 16 if somebody is extremely overweight. We would suggest then, though, that after 12 to 16 max, they would come off the peptide, knowing they made the dietary changes, they made the lifestyle changes, they continue the exercise, they continue the strength building, they continue the protein intake, they continue the right supplements. And then if they need to restart peptides after 30 or 60 days, they could, but we don't ever put them on a bigger dose or suggest a bigger dose. We don't ever suggest long-term use. And we don't seem to have to continue to up the dose when we're using smaller doses 3 times a week.
And it's a combination, I guess, because of lifestyle and you feel better and you're writing down your protein. And I think if you're going to invest in a GLP-1, that is the way to do it, as long as you do all those other things in tandem. But what about also if you're going to take a GLP-1 and microdose it, what about taking another peptide with it that is to stimulate your growth hormone and help you build muscle? Can you take the two at the same time?
You absolutely can, Janet. Now, remember, the FDA has put those type of peptides under, quote, Category 2, which means there's not enough data to say they're safe for humans, although most of them have been used for decades with no issues. So let's make that clear. Let's make that clear right now. They are probably only going to be able to do that by using research peptides. Okay, they're not going to be able to come into the pharmacy with a prescription and get those peptides filled.
And a research peptide is where you go online and it says for research only, and then it's like the Wild Wild West.
Well, that's the problem. And there's a very well-known testing agency. Jankowitz is his name. I can't think of his first name. And the vast majority of these peptides are fake. A lot of them are just sterile water or bacteriostatic water put in a vial, and they sell them for crazy.
Yeah, so how do you know, right?
So it's 100% markup or 1,000% markup, whatever, So you have to be very careful when you get into that. So, I'm very cautious about people injecting stuff they don't know where it's from or who made it, or was it made in, Johnny's lab down in his basement while he's smoking a cigarette. I don't know,
We're not talking about our friend Johnny, are we?
No, we're not talking about our friend Johnny, but I'm just saying we want to be very cautious of that. So can they take the two different peptides together? Absolutely.
So
they
it's gonna be
have
hard
to
to
make
find
sure
it.
they get the right quality from a reputable source.
Okay.
Because there's so much out there that is totally unregulated. It's Janet, it's no different than supplements. Supplements are unregulated.
You can have a bottle of M&Ms and they'll be labeled multivitamins.
80% don't contain any of the active ingredients. Over 95% contain toxic ingredients. I say the numbers are much higher with peptides.
Wow, and I'm seeing that when I'm scrolling online. I'm just getting bombarded all the time with, anything having to do with peptides.
Right.
And then I'm getting, like I said earlier, highly recruited. I'm getting a lot of phone calls and emails about will you sell my peptides? And they're multi-level marketing companies.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do some research. One of them, all their peptides are actually powders. They're not injectables. Another one is all prescription based. It's injectables. And I'm seeing people make a lot of money, and I'm seeing people lose a lot of weight. So it's very attractive. but I feel skeptical.
Well, yeah. You should be skeptical because to this point, Janet, the best research that I know says that the vast majority of peptides, not all, the vast majority of peptides are not what we would call bioavailable orally. Okay, so that means that if you swallow that peptide in a powder form or a capsule form or whatever,
or a drink or something,
it is going to be destroyed before it ever has the desired effect.
It's going to be destroyed in your gut.
Or the vast majority of it is going to be destroyed. Yes. Now, that's not true for all peptides. There are some peptides we use orally on purpose because they're great for the gut.
For gut health.
So we do that.
But I'm specifically talking the GLP-1s now.
Yeah. Well, look, the drug companies make oral GLP-1 drugs. They make peptides that are oral. All the studies show you need much larger doses and you don't get the desired effect near the desired effect as the same as an injectable form. So there is some evidence that there could be some benefit, but right now I just don't know that the technology is there to show the benefits. And I've never seen it by the oral. Even the prescription oral, I haven't seen them give any real benefits for people at this point.
Is it more of a legality thing with if I'm buying something from a person that's not a doctor or something online, is there less issues legally if it's a pill or a powder versus I'm injecting something?
Well,
does that change things?
I definitely think that it's probably a safer method for the manufacturers because there's not the liability of somebody having to use a needle and maybe
people don't
it.
like to inject themselves. So I think it's very attractive to think, oh, I can do this and I don't have to put a needle in my belly or whatever.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of people are scared of needles and I get it for people who are. What I don't want to see them doing though, Janet, is throwing their money away on a product that is worthless.
Yeah.
So a lot of these products that are kind of out there recently are, I looked at some of their ingredients. I think using the word peptide is used very, very loosely.
A lot of the ingredients are caffeine
caffeine, and they have cover-up names for caffeine.
Energy drink type things.
It's certainly not something that I would endorse or ever use or recommend or promote. A lot of these things are put in place for people to make money. And I hate to say that, but I think that's what a lot of it boils down to.
And they're recruiting, they're recruiting more and more people to sell their products versus more and more people to take their products.
That's how they make the money is by recruiting other people.
There's a thing going around online right now, close by, where they're bragging about how much weight they're losing without having to exercise at all.
Yeah.
And
they're losing,
crazy.
I
suspect
muscle. They're losing muscle. Now, listen, and I know we talk about this a lot, but I think it's really important to get back to it.
Okay.
Muscle is your bank account for aging. It is your retirement. It is your IRA. It is your 401k for your health.
Yeah.
You need to maintain and build muscle at all ages. You are less likely to die from all causes when you carry more muscle. You are less likely to fall and break a hip, especially you ladies, which is I think 75% of those ladies die within 3 to 5 years from the complications of the broken hip. I mean, we can go through. But muscle is responsible for 70% of the carbohydrate or glucose uptake in our bodies. 70%.
A lot. So if you're eating a lot of sugar, you need to work out, and that pushes it into your muscle.
Not only that, Janet, but just think if you have lost, let's say you've lost 100 pounds, and let's just say you were on the low end of what the studies show, and you lost 30 pounds of muscle. You lost 70 pounds of fat and 30 pounds of muscle. Well, now you have 30 pounds less let's just say a woman started, well, I'll just use some numbers.
Yeah, use some, yeah.
A woman started with 70 pounds of muscle, okay? And she lost 30 pounds of muscle, and she went from, I don't know, 250 to 150. Mm-hmm. So a pretty significant change.
Lost 100 pounds.
But now she only has 40 pounds of muscle. So she essentially has that much less ability to take up carbohydrates and glucose. So now she has probably have weaker bone formations. Mm-hmm. And remember, the bones are replaced every 7 years. Mm-hmm. She very well may have started to lose hair, and her skin may not be what it used to be because of the nutrient deficiencies.
Would her insulin go up also?
Well, probably if she eats any type of carbohydrates, her insulin's going to go up because her muscles are not there as efficiently to take up the glucose. So now the body's got to make more insulin to push it into the cells.
Her immune system's going to go down.
More fat.
Yeah.
And so she's either stuck on a high-dose GLP, or she goes off and she gains 100 pounds back, and now this time she gained 100 pounds of fat back and no muscle. Now she's down 30 pounds of muscle, and she's back at the same weight she was at. But
and
now
her metabolism is now tanked.
Is fat. So I just think that these drugs, these peptides, are being used improperly in a lot of cases. And it's not necessarily the patient's fault. It's not the person using its fault. It's the person prescribing its fault, because they're getting no education. They say, here's a prescription, go get this filled at Prescriptions Plus, go see Billy and get this. And there's no education to it. And then the next month they get the next dose. And then the next month they get the higher dose. And so it's like a snowball going down the hill the wrong way, getting bigger and bigger and bigger as the person gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Yeah. But in the long run, I'm afraid it's going to lead to real problems if the person doesn't start to make the necessary changes, get the right supplements, get the right protein, start resistance training, strength training of some kind. If they don't do that, they're going to be in trouble. Now, the buzz...
Because there really are no shortcuts.
There really are no shortcuts, but the beauty of the GLP-1s, when done properly, is they dampen the food noise. Yeah. And they do make it easier to avoid the Big Mac and fries or the ice cream.
Or to sort of reset those cravings.
They do, and they do reset the insulin and sugar receptors, so they have some long-term benefit even after you go off of them, provided you've done it properly. Now, if you've added muscle or maybe just maintain muscle and burn fat, well, now your body's more efficient, and you've reset those receptors. And so you don't need the peptide forever. Or you're using a really low dose periodically. So you can kind of do a more long-term approach, but periodically on low doses. And so rather than taking the buzz of the GLP-1 and trying to find an oral version or a powder version or I don't know, whatever else you named, let's talk
about the education
Let's
first.
Maybe use the right GLP-1 after we're educated, yeah. And rather than what I would say, throwing our money away on products that may give me some short-term benefit, but I don't think it's because there's truly a peptide benefit as much as there's as bad as it is to say, there's maybe some stimulant benefit. Yeah. In some of them.
Yeah, an appetite suppressant.
And appetite suppressant benefit from those stimulants. And then there's the mental thing that you say, oh, gosh, I got this, and it helps. Yeah. And so mentally, maybe it does help, which is fine. But I don't know that it's truly what we're saying when we say peptide, if it's what I think it's misrepresented.
And it could be, just like when we talk about estrogens and progesterones and not being apples to apples, it's the same thing with peptides. You got to know.
Well, look, Janet, anything with an amino acid chain can be considered a short amino acid chain can be considered a peptide. But for example, let's say, broccoli has some amino acids in it, but it's not necessarily what we consider a peptide. Ginseng has amino acids in it, but it's not what we think of when we're thinking of a signaling peptide to help, create less cravings or create new pathways for insulin and sugar to work. So there's a lot of things with peptides in it, but it doesn't mean that they're true what we advertise as.
That's a gray area. And
I mean, you could
be some
theoretically,
snake oil.
you could say Snickers has a peptide in it because it's got peanut. I'm assuming Snickers has peanut butter in it, but if it does, it has some amino acids in it. So.
And now they add protein to candy bars. So
and that's another thing that we're seeing is the protein thing is becoming more and more known. So you'll see it added to junk food. Added protein.
But then it's a source of protein that doesn't really do anything.
Right.
So here's what I'm hearing, to capture this whole topic is that the education is what's again lacking. So
Janet, if somebody would just come and do a consult with me or come through the summit in January.
Well, that's what I was getting at.
They would learn this and they would understand completely. It's more than we can do on a podcast. It's more than we can do on a load of podcasts. Absolutely. Sitting down for 2 full days and learning, or sitting down for an hour and a half and going through your individual case and getting the proper supplements and getting the proper hormones. Then once you've got the 5 pillars in place, so the food, sleep, the supplements, the water, the sleep, the exercise, then the hormones, then is when you should look at peptides, in my opinion, and not before. Until you fix the basics, those other 6 things.
And same with hormones.
Peptides are like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good way to put it that people could understand. So peptides are like you need to move a structure on your property, and it's an old torn down or fallen down building. And you say, well, I could go out there and just tear it down with some hammer and stuff. You could do that. Or you could say, well, I could go, National Guard, I know a guy and he can bring a tank out here. I think we almost are jumping to the tank before we look at the hammer and crowbar or the tractor to get rid of this building. We're going straight to the tank, and we're missing all the steps that need to happen
all the things you want to save inside of that building that maybe were valuable.
Right. We just run over it and it's gone. So I think that what happens is we have that tank mentality, and there's so much hype, and we see the commercials on TV, and then we got the friend that's got the multi-level marketing peptide product. And so before we know it, we're sucked in and we're several $100s into something, and it may not be what we think we're getting. So I just want to caution people. It's no different than going to one of these big name stores and buying a bottle of multivitamin or a bottle of magnesium or a bottle of vitamin C. It's probably not what you think you're getting. It's probably you're not getting what you paid for. And so we got to be really, really careful about, what I think of these trends, and I kind of just blow them off, and I don't even address them. And I wouldn't have addressed this if you hadn't said you're getting all these questions about these products and things. Right. It was only, 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago that there was this big rage on the internet and all these people talking about this sugar diet and how you could lose all this fat.
I know somebody that did it.
And people would ask me, what do you think? And I'm like, that will fade away very, very quickly, y'all. That is nonsense. I mean, can you lose some fat doing that? I'm sure you probably can, but what are you destroying in the process? So we have to I have always tried to avoid the things without scientific evidence that are just kind of blow by night trends that will go away very quickly. So when you deal with me, I'm only going to deal with things that I'm comfortable with, that I know the science on, that I believe in. And I don't do things just to make money. Like I'll give you a great example.
Yeah.
All the CBD hype, right? Mm-hmm. Do you know how much of that I could sell?
Oh, yeah.
If I had it in the pharmacy? Mm-hmm. But I am not doing that because I'm not comfortable with it. And I know some of the downsides of doing these things long term. And I I tell everybody, you're the CEO. You can do it if you want, but I'm not going to sell it to you. I'm not going to profit from it because that's not the way I work. I want to do what's best for the person. And in the process, if we can make money, great. But if we can't, I'm not going to jump onto a trend to just purely for profit. That's just not who I am.
And what I see, what I hear when I look at you, what comes to mind is integrity and your mission to really help people. And I have so much trust in you. And I really strongly want to tell people out there that if they live close by, if you're in this area in Western North Carolina, you have such an amazing opportunity to do a one-on-one with you. And that would be the first thing. And, learn about the lifestyle, the pillars, maybe peptides if you need them, learn about hormones. But every January, and it's the only time of year that you do this.
Yeah.
You are so busy and you're traveling and you're teaching and you're podcasting and I know there's a line to get in to see you.
Yeah.
But the opportunity to take your weekend course where you see the research, the data, the science, especially for people who enjoy, that sort of thing. They really want to see the science. I want to call out, to the doctors that live around here. Come learn this stuff.
Well, Janet, the thing is, the results of the OptiU program speak for themselves. The people who follow it, like you and Don and Mark and Audrey and, Zeke and Amy. And I can keep going. Squirrel and his wife.
Bill and Lydia.
And Bill and Lydia. And the results.
Lauren and Ken.
There are so many just phenomenal stories that people go, oh, you can't do that. But the thing that I want to make sure everybody understands when you talk about integrity, I think that's a good word because I always use this example and I mean it. I would never recommend you or your wife or whatever, your husband, whoever I'm talking to, or your kids do anything that I wouldn't have my wife or myself or my kids or grandkids do. And if I wouldn't, I'm not going to recommend it. I'm not going to profit off of it. I'm not going to sell it. I'm not going to, you can go do it, but you're going to have to go somewhere else. And that's just the way that I'm going to operate.
And I really appreciate that.
Because if it's not safe enough for Beth, I'm not going to recommend it to Janet.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to recommend it to Lydia, and I'm not going to recommend it to Audrey, and I'm not going to do it. So I want to make sure that people are dealing with, whether it's me or whoever, people who have research. People will ask me about products all the time, and I go, I just don't know the research on it. I can't say yes or no. I don't know. I could look into it maybe. But I know what I know, and I know what I've learned, and I continue to do all this education. And there's so many fads that have just passed away over the years. I just want to try to avoid being part of that.
And when you know better, you do better.
That's right.
And when you understand it and it makes sense to you, then you can actually get a little creative. And, this can become a really fun, it's become such a fun journey. In the beginning, I was
really
just like, oh, now my life's got to be strict or, oh, I can't eat this or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, it's really become this fun thing that I enjoy so much.
Well, the beauty is knowledge is power, Janet.
Yeah.
And the more efficient your body is, really the more, I don't know the right word, the more things you can do that don't cause any long-term issues. So if you are insulin and sugar sensitive because of the lifestyle you lead, and then you go to the birthday party and you want to have cake and ice cream, your body is going to utilize that very efficiently. Whereas if you're already the dumpster fire of health and you're overweight and you're borderline diabetic and you're on blood pressure meds and whatever, statin drugs, and you eat the cake and ice cream, it's a completely different effect at the birthday party on that person as it would be on somebody who's doing what you're doing. It doesn't mean you should do it every day, but you can go out and have the birthday party and not have to suffer
and not feel guilty
long-term consequences from that because your body will be able to utilize it.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
All right.
That's it.
So be careful what you put in and on your body. I think you should be super selective.
And come learn the research. It's fun.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank you.